Welcome to US Arab Radio. This is Khalil Hachem with the Local Connections. Thank you for being with us. We have had reports on the economy. Some would say that it is good, while others say the economy is struggling and we could see a correction, maybe other things. We're not sure. It's an election year, as you well know, and normally during election years, things take different directions. At the same time, prices of goods and services continue to climb in some areas, and while in wages or some wages have stayed the same. What is going on with the economy? What should we expect in the coming months leading to the presidential election? With us this morning is Dr. Vivek Singh, a professor of economics at the University of Michigan-Dearborn. Thank you for being with us, and good morning.
Thank you, Khalil. Good morning to you and to all the listeners.
Thank you. Thank you. We appreciate it. How is the economy? How are we doing?
Khalil, overall, my take on the economy is that I think we are doing surprisingly very well. I mean, not so back, actually. If you go back to the end of last year, people were predicting pretty much that we will be heading towards a recession. But now, like that, at least the US economy has defied all expectations. And you can almost say that we have not only actually avoided a recession, and I would say that we have done even better than what we call soft landing. I mean, we are going towards normal times in some sense, where the inflation is stabilizing. It's actually coming down dramatically, and it's almost on the target to the 2% number which the Fed prefers. I'm sure we're going to be there, not right away, but
eventually.
Surprises, but I think we are heading there. Like by the end of this year, my guess is we will be there. Unemployment has been going up, but not by much. I mean, it's like 4%, but again, 4% is a very good number in times. And the wages are stabilizing. They're not increasing as much, which is a good thing, actually. That was one of the reasons why interest rates had been going up. So Fed has little more room. If the wages don't go up as much, if the unemployment starts edging up, but not too much, I mean, it gives room to Fed to decrease the interest rate, which in turn is going to be good for all of us, especially real estate and
sure.
that part of the market.
Yeah. Why do we keep getting people complaining about the economy? Is it because politics are involved, or are there any hidden fears out there?
Very good point, Khalil. I think this has been bothering a lot of economists that when you look at the numbers, raw numbers, the numbers are pretty good, actually, especially if we compare ourselves to the rest of the world. But man in the street doesn't feel that way. I think in my mind, I think the big reason is the cost of living. That has definitely gone up, since pandemic. I mean, the prices of the goods have gone up. The prices have started coming down, but they still remain very high. So, and another big cost which hasn't come down, which is causing a lot of concern all over the place, is the housing.
Yes.
That remains stubbornly high. Not only the house prices, even the rentals are quite high. I mean, if you take as a percentage of your monthly disposable income, it's very high, and that remains stubbornly high even now.
Yeah.
So, and again, as a common man, when I go to fill my tank for my car at the gas station, I feel the pinch. I see these almost $4, or even sometimes more than $4 per gallon, which I'm not used to. But that is beyond. To some extent, we can blame it on Ukraine war. But again, I mean, this is something that we have not seen. So things like that. If you look at the price of the eggs, price of the grocery, price of gasoline, and the housing included, people don't get the impression that we are doing very well. So I think that, I see some sort of disconnect between what the reality is and what the people feel. And both are actually correct. I mean, I can't say that what we feel or what a common man feels on the street is imagining things. I mean, these things are real. We all actually experience all that. But at the same time, we can also say that, like, I think we have, at least the US economy has done very well. I mean,
You know,
we are,
people seem to have money though. Spending is still up,
yes.
you know.
So, Khalil, so that is what is surprising. I mean, even though people are complaining, but people continue to
Yeah,
spend
yeah,
and
yeah.
they continue to be very optimistic about the job prospects. So, which is again, like as I said, like it's sort of, it doesn't make sense to a lot of economists. A lot of people have been talking about this, like why we feel like that. That I mean, the people have jobs and the job growth has been very steady. Even the wages have been increasing, like for all kinds of reasons. Unemployment is extremely low. People have a lot of money stashed away, partly because of what happened during the pandemic. We got a lot of
Yeah,
those
yeah.
checks, and like we did not have much avenues to spend the money. We are sitting on a lot of savings. And if you look at the consumer spending, which keeps going up, I mean, it's, but why, but people still feel not very good about themselves. I think this is like some sort of behavioral issue that where people like
Yeah, yeah,
focus on certain things and they ignore everything else. That's
absolutely. And we don't really have good, unfortunately, we don't really have good media to put it in perspective. You know, I've done, it's non-scientific because it's only limited to what I've seen. You
yeah.
know, at Costco, at Walmart, at Kroger's, and every time I've gone there, I have to stand in line for forever. And then I just went around and wanted to see what are people buying. You know, normally when things are bad, people are not only going to buy essentials. You know, and if and I would say 40% of what people buy in essentials, the rest are really their non-essentials, which tells me that they have the courage to spend money, and that has not really changed yet.
I couldn't agree more, Khalil. Like, I mean, this is absolutely true. Like, you go to, but like just like you go to any of these convenience stores, grocery stores, like you have to stand in the line, and in every aisle, people are there, and obviously they're not buying. Like, I mean, if you look at the carts are full,
Yeah,
and it doesn't feel that as if like these people don't have money to spend. Obviously, they
yeah,
have money to spend,
yeah,
but at the same time, we also keep hearing these complaints,
yeah,
and which, as I said, like it's partly true because prices are up, but they have the money to spend.
yeah, yeah.
So, I mean, to an economist, if your wages are higher, even if the prices are higher, like it doesn't really matter. Like, I mean, at the end of the day, you have the still same purchasing power. But people, I think, as I said, like tend to focus more on the prices rather than their buying power. Like they
Sure.
just go, okay, this is what I'm not getting, what I used to get.
Yeah.
4 or 5 years back, I would buy stuff worth $150 by paying the same $100, but now I have to spend $150. But what they fail to recognize that now I have capacity to spend $150.
Yes, yes, absolutely, absolutely. You know, looking back at it, and you know, when my son and I were talking about it this morning, excuse me, the giving money to people, I think, was not a good policy, and on many respects, and correct me if I'm wrong, you know, first people stopped working. Second, they had extra money to spend. They didn't really care what the prices were. I think had the government, you know, focused on trying to offset the extra cost for businesses for doing business and for paying employees extra to bring them in, I think in the long term it would have been much better policy than just giving handing out money to people and say go spend as you wish. What do you think?
Yeah, Kali, it's a debatable point, actually. I mean, the approach that we did, I mean, when I say we, that means the US took during the pandemic period was basically giving people the money directly.
Yeah.
Okay, we have the checks in your bank account, and if you want to, we don't care how you spend that money, whether you work or you don't work, like we don't really care. Whereas the Europeans, they did something what you are suggesting. Now, I mean, both approaches have their pros and cons, but it seems like the US, I mean, if you look at the numbers, like how the
Mhm.
US economy has done vis-a-vis the European economy, they are growing, but barely. They haven't grown much. They are struggling, like in many parts of the Europe. Great Britain has remained totally flat. I mean, they haven't grown at all.
Hmm.
Europe is barely growing, and Japan is like out of the long run recession they had got themselves into like almost 20 years back. But the US economy, like even though we, in some sense, you can, as you correctly said, that you can argue that this wasn't the right approach, but this did help.
Yes. Yes.
This did help. So I would argue that the proof of the pudding is in eating. So I think we did give the wrong incentives. People like they don't have to work. If they work, they're going to not make as much money if they, than what they get directly as a handout from the government.
Yeah.
But it did
Yeah.
spur the economy, like in term, and again, inflation, like part of the inflation was because of this.
Yeah. Yeah.
But again, as we argued a little bit earlier, that inflation wouldn't really matter if I have the money to spend.
Exactly.
I can complain
Exactly.
as I want, but like if I have the money, why should I care if the prices are high?
Yeah. And
Especially if I don't have to work or I have to work less for the
that's
same
true.
amount.
That's true. Specifically, as you said, it did not really change the behavior of people much.
Yeah.
And,
Yes.
I mean, if you're not scared that certain items are very expensive right now, but people keep buying it. And I always say, okay, well, look for alternatives, buy
Yeah.
something else. And if it's not essential, don't even buy it at all. The price then will go down. I mean, people have to sell at the end of the day, you know.
Yes.
Oh, it's amazing. Now, inflation, where are we?
So Khalil, the inflation numbers, like again, like compared to the way we were 1 year back and the direction of it, like they are awesome. Like in terms of course, the prices remain high in comparison to what they were, say 2019, but the direction has been downwards, except the housing part, like which
Mhm.
remains still very high and which comprises like almost 1/3 of what a typical household would spend. I mean, going by different indexes, but I'm simply taking the consumer price index. Like, so that part remains high. So other than housing, actually the prices of things have started to come down. They're increasing, but they're increasing at a very normal rate, what is acceptable, which we could handle.
Mhm.
And my guess is and so in this regard, like the Federal Reserve policy has been extremely successful. They have been able to bring down the inflation without destroying the economy. Typically, like anytime what we have experienced in the past, that anytime the central bank starts increasing interest rates, it more or less leads to recession. That means the job losses are there, GDP goes down, people start losing jobs. We haven't seen that. Job market has been fairly strong. People are still employed. In fact, people are still gaining some wage increases, and the prices are also going down. So, in some sense, I think I won't say that we have won the battle yet. We don't know like what may happen in the next few months.
Sure.
I mean, at the start of the year, we had some surprises. We thought the prices were, I mean, we're going to have some rate cuts very early on, maybe in June, but that did not happen. Like we had some surprises in the initial part of the year, but now things seem to be moving in the same direction. That I think things, barring the housing, I would argue that I think the prices are heading in the right direction. But housing, as we said, like I think the big component of that is the interest rates. Unless the interest rates start coming down, I'm afraid the housing costs will remain high.
Yeah. Do you expect the Feds to cut interest rates before the end of the year?
Really, like actually, I mean, one rate I would argue is pretty much guaranteed, the one in September. I mean, nobody is forecasting anything to happen in July, but thing is pretty much guaranteed. Like I have my fact set open right now, and I'm
Sure.
looking at the numbers out here. The 96% probability of rate cuts happening in September, one rate cut, and almost 2/3 of the people, these are economists and business people, the 2/3 of the people are estimating another rate cut in October. And like another like 50 odd percent, more than 50% are expecting third rate cut in December. But my guess is at least two rate cuts would happen
Sure.
Again, this is subject to things, no surprises. Like we suddenly start seeing some inflation data comes out and suddenly, like unexpectedly, the price starts going up. We don't know. That may happen. And of course, we have these outside forces like things in Ukraine and things in Gaza. We don't know which way they will, whether
They will
they're going
end
to.
up, yeah, yeah.
Yeah. So, unless we have any big surprises, my guess is at least one rate cut is pretty much guaranteed. My guess is two.
Yeah.
We will see two rate cuts.
Yeah. We're gonna take a short break. We'll be right back. Please stay tuned.
Hey, Michigan drivers. Are you sending or answering group chats behind the wheel? Checking emails at the light? Calling family or friends on the commute? Michigan's hands-free law makes it illegal to manually use electronic devices while behind the wheel of a vehicle. Breaking the law could mean fines or even community service. Go hands-free, just drive. It's the law. Learn more at michigan.gov/distracted driving. A message from the Michigan Office of Highway Safety Planning.
At Top Rehab Physical Therapy Clinic in Dearborn, we provide effective physical therapy sessions in order to limit pain and discomfort. Top Rehab provides physical therapy care for any diagnosis prescribed by a physician, and we regularly see and treat conditions such as stroke, TMJ, fibromyalgia, sciatica, joint pain, and more. We use a variety of pain management methods, including modalities, soft tissue mobilization, and therapeutic exercise. If you're in need of physical rehabilitation or physical therapy, get the highest quality health care at Top Rehab. Most insurance is accepted, and we're open Monday, Wednesday, and Friday 8 to 6, Tuesday and Thursday 8 to 5, and Saturday 10 till 2. Call for an appointment today at 313-846-0555. That's 313-846-0555. Choose Top Rehab Physical Therapy Clinic on Michigan Avenue in Dearborn. Life's too short to be in pain.
Ziyad brand. Quality products from our family to yours. Ziyad Brothers Importing offers the finest quality products, including brands like Sultan, Kraft, Nestle, Hook, Rico Picon, Donna, and many more. Ask your retailer to carry these fine products because you deserve the very best. For more information, visit our website at www.ziyad.com. That's www.ziyad.com. Ziyad, quality products from our family to yours.
Welcome back, and thank you for being with us. This is Khalil Hachem. We're discussing the economy and inflation, interest rates, and prices as well. There has been some discussions that the Feds are targeting, their target is 4% inflation. They should be targeting 2% inflation instead of 4%. Is that does that really make sense? I mean, I'm sorry, the other way around. The Feds are targeting 2%, and some people saying 4% is acceptable. They should have been cutting rates like a month or 2 months ago. Is that a fair criticism?
Yeah, Khalil, you're right. I mean, there was some talk. I mean, that talk has sort of died down, but at one point, like when the inflation was stubbornly very, I'm talking about like last year, more like 2023. So people start saying that why are we worried about this inflation being around 2%, the preferred target? Like we can take 4% as a normal rate of inflation, and if the numbers start coming down below 4%, like if inflation starts coming down 4%, we can start cutting down the interest rates and to give this. But people are not really talking much about that anymore. Somehow, again, like it's to an economist, like what number we agree on, it's irrelevant as long as we feel comfortable with that. But my guess is for all kinds of reasons, 2% seems to be a number which almost everyone agrees to. And I think it's a good number. It's 4% a year. Then down the road, we might start tinkering with this number, say, why not 6%? Why not 8%? Why not 10%? So you keep going up.
Yes.
I feel rather comfortable with this 2% number. And I think most of us feel like when I say most, like most economists those who make a lot more money and those who are more knowledgeable than me, they all feel comfortable with this 2% number.
Yeah, yeah. Now we have an election year, and normally election years do affect the economy. And I don't know what's going on with America. That's a political issue there. It's like we don't have any men out there, any women out there to run for president. We have a sleeper and a somebody else, and uh,
Yeah.
but that's a different discussion. Now, from an economic point of view, historically, how has elections really influenced the economy? Because it doesn't seem like President Biden is getting the benefit he should get, the credit he should get for managing the economy the way he did, and the inflation and all of that.
Yeah, absolutely right, Khalil. Like typically, like if the economy is good, the incumbent, say in this case, President Biden, should get some benefit of that. And surprisingly, this is the typical thing which happens in an election year. But surprisingly, the economy is doing well, the people have jobs, and things are heading in the right direction. Despite that, Biden has gotten none of that benefit. In fact, people are complaining constantly about the prices and the gasoline prices, the housing prices, and all that. So in that sense, it's somewhat, I would argue, it's some sort of unusual year, which, even though the economy is doing well, but it's not helping the incumbent. And people are focused more about the prices rather than anything else. I think that seems to be the issue.
Yeah.
And my guess is the things will not change much from now till November. Again, unless something unexpected happen, I think that things will remain the same. And what we have seen in the last 2-3 months, especially last 1 week, I think that has changed the dynamics altogether. Now, I don't know, it's going to be mighty difficult in my mind for Democrats to pull off a victory, given what has happened in 1 week. So it doesn't really matter whether the economy does very well or does slightly worse. If it does worse, obviously it's going to hurt Biden. But my guess is barring any unforeseen circumstances, the things will remain the same, but Biden is not going to get the credit. In fact, Khalil, I'm more worried about what happens once Biden comes back to power, which the odds I see very rather low. But if, say, President Trump comes to power, then the things may get a little worse. Given, especially if, say, President Trump comes and he has vowed to put tariffs, 10% tariffs on everyone and a lot more on China. Obviously, this is going to increase the cost of everything, inputs and whatever we buy from outside is going to add on to the inflation. If inflation goes up again, central bank has to do something about the interest rates. So all those things that we were talking about just now, the prices going down, they may start going up.
Absolutely.
The interest rates going down, the interest rates going up.
Yeah.
So those are not good signs.
Yeah, I did review the policies that President Trump. He was in power for 4 years. We shouldn't really take what they say at the podium, and their policies with tariffs, which is from my experience, and I studied this, tariffs really don't work.
They don't
work, and people pay the price when it comes to tariffs. And when it comes to tariffs, when it comes to loosening certain policies and all of that, and that's a disastrous recipe when it comes to dealing with inflation and where we are. A lot of people are looking at it from an emotional point of view, whether they support Trump or they support Biden. They're not looking at it from true economic point of view. Correct me if I'm wrong.
Khalil, I couldn't agree more. I think any economist worth his salt would argue that tariffs are not good. And it doesn't help anyone, neither the people, those who are putting the tariffs, nor the people those who are getting slapped with the tariffs. In our case, China or the rest of the world, who are being, in some sense, punished. We're not punishing them. Actually, you're punishing ourselves. And in the end, you're punishing everyone.
Sure.
So
Sure.
it's always a bad idea. But it seems to be politically very popular at the moment. Like somehow people have been persuaded to believe that China and many other countries haven't played by the rules. They have ripped off, quote unquote, like the US. Some of that is true that, like, I think they haven't played by the rules. But despite that, I think the response should not be imposing tariffs on the goods. I
Exactly.
mean, if it helps us, like, might as well do it, but it's not going to help us.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
And what about the counter tariffs that they might put on you? Like, I mean, it's we live in a world which is very interdependent these days. Gone are the days like where we could say, okay, we can do everything in the US. You can't. I mean, we saw what happened during pandemic period that, I mean, even if we wanted to buy some very basic necessities, like which we needed in the hospitals, like to keep the hospitals running, we had to get these things all the way from China and different parts of Asia. So that those days are gone.
Yeah. Same thing, a similar issue that people really misuse, which is the immigration issue. Normally, immigrants and illegal immigrants, do jobs that Americans don't want to do. And to say that, immigrants steal American jobs, really, this is not correct. I mean, as you well know, this country was built on immigration, and specifically illegal immigrants do jobs that Americans don't want to do. And this is why I had lettuce cost $2 because somebody is getting paid $1 to pick it up. If we're going to pay him $20 to pick it up, the head of lettuce is going to cost us $15. And people don't understand this. Again, this is another issue that gets caught in politics, and it's really not fair.
Yeah, Khalil, I fully agree with you. I mean, part of the reason why, I mean, the US economy has done so well, almost everyone agrees that is because of immigration. Lately, I'm talking about since 2019. I mean, if a lot more people are joining the workforce, it's good. Like we have more hands, more people getting employed, and more taxes, so on and so forth. And it's not just the Americans like who went back. It's like much of that has happened because of this immigrants, including the illegal ones, the undocumented one or the legal ones. Like, and you correctly said that these people are not they're making an honest living. They are doing work which nobody else wants to do. And as a result of that, we are all benefiting. Like instead of paying $15 for a job, I pay $10. Why should I complain? Absolutely. And they're not taking away. And the biggest point is they're not taking away any American's job. They're just doing those jobs which no American wants to do anyways. So we should find a way, actually, some legal way of formalizing these so-called illegal workers that, okay, we give you these visas, okay, then instead of simply calling them, these people are poor people. And as you correctly said, America is built on immigration.
Yeah. Yeah.
And our population is aging and we need people. Actually, our birth rates are going down and people are getting older. Where do we get more hands to run the economy? We get immigration. And we should be fortunate that a lot of people want to come to the US, whether legally or illegally. I mean, it's a great sign that that shows the strength of the economy.
Absolutely. It's going to be an interesting few months leading up to the election. We'll see what happens. Is there anything I haven't asked you that we need to focus on as far as the economy and the topic?
No, Khalil, like I'm just worried about like what may happen after the election. As I said, like my one worry is about the tariffs. I'm also a little worried about like how the new president like would tackle this immigration issue that we briefly touched upon. Like I hope they don't follow up on their promises of deporting all these people and like building a wall and doing all that. And another issue I think that which we didn't talk about is these taxes. Like President Trump, like that was a great tax bill that he passed in his first term. And some of that is going to be expiring. Some of the provisions are going to expire, especially on the personal front. So if they're going to be renewed, like that's going to add more to the deficit, and how that deficit is going to be financed.
Yeah.
Especially when the Fed is trying to is not making its policy very loose. So how are we going to finance, which again is going to cost higher interest rates for everyone. So that worries me. Like, but that's down the road, like not immediate.
Sounds good. Well, I thank you for taking the time to be with us. It's always a pleasure to talk to you. Hopefully things will work better for everybody and the prices will come down when the interest rates come down and we wake up in 2025 and things are much better.
Thank you, Khalil, for having me.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Pleasure. Always a pleasure to talk to you. We're going to take a short break. Please stay tuned.
In a perfect world, everyone would be a perfect driver.
Hands at 9 and 3, everyone.
9 and 3.
Everyone would follow all the rules.
Please, go ahead and merge. I'll make room.
Thank you, fellow driver.
And nothing unexpected would ever happen. Even the squirrels would know the right time to safely cross the road. In this perfect world, you wouldn't have to wear a seatbelt. But in case you hadn't noticed, we don't live in a perfect world. About 1,000 people in Michigan die each year in vehicle crashes, and thousands more are injured. Wearing your seatbelt reduces your risk of death in a crash by 45% in a car and by 60% in a pickup truck. So until we find a perfect world to drive in, make our imperfect world safer by buckling up. A message from the Michigan Office of Highway Safety Planning.
Are you going to start a restaurant or a grocery store soon? Do you need floor plans and designs? Call Naji Abood at 734-744-9796. Do you want to buy kitchen and restaurant equipment at discount prices? Call Naji Abood now, 734-744-9796. New Concept Products and Design, the trademark of kitchen equipment. 5% discount on all purchases of $75,000 or more. New Concept Products and Design, new location, 31185 Schoolcraft in Livonia. Learn more at www.newconceptproducts.com. Call Naji Abood, 734-744-9796.
Life for Relief and Development has now been rated as one of the best charities for humanitarian aid. Life's humanitarian projects span the globe, and Life is celebrating its 30th anniversary of providing essential life-saving aid to people and communities in 36 countries, regardless of race, color, religion, or cultural background. Where there is life, there is hope. And when disaster occurs here or around the world, including being one of the first responders to the Turkey-Syria earthquake crisis, Life for Relief and Development rushes in to provide food, medical aid, and shelter to those in need. We are looking to help the earthquake victims, and we take 0% overhead on emergency donations. So please help improve these efforts. Learn more about our involvement to help the helpless and bring hope where it's needed most, and make your tax-deductible donation to Life for Relief and Development now at lifeusa.org or call 248-424-7493. That's 248-424-7493.
Welcome back and thank you for being with us. This is Khalil Hachem. We're going to move from the previous section talking about economics to talk about the things that we don't want to talk about, such as ticks and mosquitoes and the crawling things that we don't like about Michigan summer. Although we enjoy the Michigan summer. With us this morning is Emily Den. Good morning and thank you for being with us.
My pleasure. Thanks for having me.
So what do you do with the state?
So I am the medical entomologist with the Michigan Department of Health and Human Services. And what that means is I talk about the things people don't want to talk about, like mosquitoes and ticks. So in a quick summary, I am the subject matter expert when it comes to all things insect and human health related. So that would be like ticks, mosquitoes, bed bugs, fleas, lice, and any other questions related to that.
Sounds good. From what I understand, we had a warm winter, which means we're going to have more of these crawling things around us. Is that true? And do we see any expansion of any of these species?
So what I can say is we see expansion with long-term trends. So there has been records of black-legged ticks or deer ticks that transmit Lyme disease expanding in throughout the entire state of Michigan for over the last 30 to 40 years. And so I can say the sort of long-term trends. It's harder for me to say on the year-by-year basis what's it going to be like, because insects like mosquitoes and ticks are very sensitive to temperature conditions. What I can say about this year is, since I don't have a prediction model, I do have other ways to get information, and I can talk about that later on in our discussion. But one thing I'm noticing from the information on ticks I'm seeing is that with the La Nina weather cycle we're having this year, I am getting reports of the smaller stage of the deer tick being active right now. Usually we're seeing those ticks active in the spring and early summer months, and then those go away around this time and then come back up again in the fall. So we're seeing what looks like a very extended season.
Absolutely, absolutely. And so we're talking about ticks, mosquitoes, fleas. What else should we worry about?
So most of what I talk about with news information is mosquitoes and ticks.
Okay.
There are all sorts of different things for fleas and lice, depending on that. And that's still there. I'm there for those questions, but most of the messaging I have is around avoiding tick and mosquito bites.
Okay.
And so it's hard for me to say what I'm seeing on mosquitoes so far. So far, it seems about average activity. We are seeing things like mosquitoes and animals test positive for Jamestown Canyon and West Nile virus. I have not had any human cases reported to me yet, but that doesn't mean that there are none out there, maybe. So right around now is when I would be seeing those reports.
What is the worst time? Let's talk about mosquitoes first, then we can talk about ticks. When is the worst time for mosquitoes for us to be outside?
So that depends on if you mean by how annoying their bites are or disease. And so I make that point because a lot of people think when there are a lot of mosquitoes out, there's more disease. And that's not necessarily true. So a lot of the times when you see those early season biting nuisance mosquitoes, the ones that are just really abundant and very annoying, those are typically not the mosquitoes we are concerned about when it comes to disease. But we are concerned about them because they're really annoying and nobody really enjoys being outside when there's so many of them out. But it is the contradictory logic where, like I said earlier, when it comes to mosquito-borne disease, right about now until fall is the higher risk time, because for reasons of mosquito biology, those are the mosquitoes that live on and can transmit diseases to people, not necessarily the early season ones.
So before we hate all mosquitoes, it is correct, is that only female mosquitoes seek blood?
That's right.
Okay. And they seek it for reproduction. It's not like they eat the blood. Is that correct?
That's right. Yeah. So the female mosquitoes are finding blood to nourish their eggs. And what I tell people is that actually all mosquitoes are obligate nectar feeders. They're pollinators.
Yeah.
So male or female, all of them do take nectar as carbohydrates and energy.
Yeah. And what are some of the diseases associated with mosquitoes?
Okay. So in Michigan, there's West Nile virus. That's the main one that we're concerned about every single year. And then the less common ones also include things like Eastern equine encephalitis, Jamestown Canyon virus, La Crosse virus, and St. Louis encephalitis.
Mm-hmm. The first one with the encephalitis, I'm sorry, the West Nile. What are the symptoms of that? I mean, how do I know? Because sometimes we get bit,
right.
We don't even know.
Right. Yes. And so the summary when it comes to mosquito-borne diseases that I just talked about in Michigan is that a lot of them have the same sort of symptoms, especially early on. So this can be things like fever, fatigue, muscle aches, feeling tired all the time, and all sorts of different things. And with more severe cases, that can lead to brain damage or central nervous system damage. And so the quick summary is that there's no one symptom that says, oh yeah, that's definitely chickenpox or that's definitely measles, like it is for, or sorry, there's no one symptom that says that's West Nile or that's Eastern equine. And that's like saying, oh, yep, that's chickenpox. It's not that simple. And clinically, they look a lot the same. It takes special testing to figure out which one of the arboviruses it is.
Is it easy for doctors to identify?
By clinical symptoms alone, no. So in addition to the clinical symptoms and the history of the patient, there's also confirmatory testing that would need to be done. Like I said earlier, so clinically, when somebody gets sick, you can't tell just by how sick that person is what disease it is.
Okay. And what's the best way for us to protect ourselves from mosquitoes?
Prevent mosquito bites.
Yeah.
So I tell people it just takes one mosquito bite to get sick. And like you said earlier, sometimes you don't even know that you're bitten by mosquitoes because they're very sneaky like that. And sometimes it's not just, you don't tell how risky something is just by seeing how many mosquitoes are outside. It's not that simple. And so I tell people, especially now through fall, before there's a hard frost, be mindful and think about wearing protective clothing, mosquito repellent, being conscientious of when you're out during different times of the day and what sort of environment you're in.
As far as mosquito clothing, is there a specific color that we shouldn't be, we should wear or should not wear?
Oh, that's a hard one. So let me think. Generally, light colored clothing is less attractive to mosquitoes. But I've had experiences where it doesn't seem to matter what color clothing I wear. So I wish it was that straightforward. And there are some like really fascinating science behind what makes one person more attractive than another, and all sorts of different even individual preferences amongst mosquitoes can have an impact on how attractive you are. And so that's why I say in mine, consider a couple of layers of protection. So yes, there is clothing, but also things like, let's say if you're traveling, are you going to bring a mosquito net? Because in other countries, those mosquitoes are active at night when people are sleeping, and there may not be air conditioning or window screens or other sort of infrastructure that protects most Americans on a daily basis.
Yeah, I do that. When I travel to the Middle East, I take mosquito nets with me, and now they make it very compact. You can just take and very easy to set up it, because you never know what else is there, not just mosquitoes. So for me to sleep to sleep better, I like the mosquito net over me. As far as protection, there are a variety of different products on the market. What are the recommendations?
So what I recommend is, for repellent, people consult the EPA Find a Repellent website. And that is a great search tool for the mosquito repellents that are on the market and with EPA registered ingredients. And what that means is that ingredient in the product has been through very thorough testing before it gets to market.
Sure.
So, and it's also a great place for all sorts of information on different substances that are approved or registered with the EPA and approved for repellent use. And also all sorts of myths about essential oils. That's a great place for information.
There are a lot of gadgets out there. Are those any use? And I don't want to name it because it's not fair.
Yeah, so I will say the EPA Find a Repellent tool only applies for skin applied products. There are products such as thermocell devices that technically wouldn't be in that because you're not applying that product to the skin. That thermocell product is essentially it's sort of like a compacted mosquito coil, just in a slightly different form. And so it's aerosolized and it's not applied to skin. Absolutely. And there's also permethrin, which I may recommend to people that are working outdoors and know that they are going to be working outside a lot or going hiking a lot in the same clothing throughout much of the summer. So when I lived in Florida and had those really busy field days, another layer of protection on top of the skin applied repellent was to ahead of time use permethrin on my clothing. And that is the repellent that is only applied to clothing and gear. You don't apply that to skin. So that would not be part of the EPA final repellent tool. And likewise, devices like bands and necklaces, things like that would not be included in there. And I don't know a whole lot about the devices to say more.
Okay. Is there a time of the day when mosquitoes are more active than others?
So it depends on a lot of different things. Generally, the rule of thumb is dawn and dusk. That's when a lot of mosquitoes that bite humans and are responsible for disease transmission are out. Of course, that can vary depending on where you are. So if you are in the Middle East, that's a very different sort of mosquito community compared to what we have in Michigan.
Sure.
And I do say, like, there are some species that are active at any time during the day. But generally, you see more of them active at dawn and dusk.
Okay. Around like, at night or before night, like at dusk or dawn, something like that.
Yes.
Okay. Okay. Now, but when it comes to mosquito, the last thing is, what do we do if we get bit? Is there any relief? Anything?
Right. So with mosquito-borne diseases, there are no preventative vaccines or treatments unless you go abroad and you get anti-malarial prophylaxis and things like that. But for the arboviruses in Michigan or other parts of the United States, there are no preventative vaccines, treatments. And if you get sick, it's only supportive care. There's no cure.
Yeah.
And so when you get bit by a mosquito, again, you can't just run to the doctor. There's nothing the doctor can really do when you're not feeling sick.
Sure.
And so what I tell people is that if you're experiencing some sort of like summer flu or those symptoms I talked about earlier, there could be reason to suspect a mosquito-borne or a tick-borne disease.
Sure. Even if there's no disease involved, mosquitoes, when they leave us after they take a blood and the bite, it's not pleasant. It itches. And
right.
Is there anything we can do for that? I mean, to minimize it?
Don't scratch it.
When you
do not scratch.
You spread it, right?
Yeah. Just avoid scratching it. And you can use things like over-the-counter itch creams to help with the swelling and whatever itching. Okay. Sometimes even things like icing can help.
Okay. And what we're going to do is, before we talk about ticks, we're going to take a short break. We'll be right back. Please stay tuned.
With more than 30,000 successful in vitro fertilizations, IVF Michigan is now ranked as one of America's best fertility clinics according to Newsweek magazine. IVF Michigan fertility centers are the recognized leaders in high-quality fertility care. With locations in Bloomfield Hills and 9 other cities in Michigan and Ohio, IVF has experts in all aspects of the field. A founding member, American board-certified Dr. Nicholas Shama, is one of the leading reproductive endocrinologists in Michigan and Ohio. He has performed over 20,000 successful IVF cases, and it's helped thousands of couples fulfill their dreams of parenthood. When it's time to get personalized care from Dr. Nicholas Shama at one of America's best fertility clinics, call IVF Michigan Fertility Centers in Michigan and Ohio toll-free at 855-952-9600. 855-952-9600. Get ready for an amazing experience at Ishtar Restaurant on 15 Mile Road in Sterling Heights. Enjoy excellent hospitality from owners Ali Al-Baghdadi and Fatty Bonham, serving the best in Mediterranean food. Try Chef Ali Al-Baghdadi's famous shawarma, the best Iraqi grills and food, and the best Arabic and international dishes. Dine in our authentic atmosphere or take out. Call 586-698-2585 or check us out on Facebook. Ishtar Restaurant practices all CDC guidelines and is open every day 11 a.m. to 10 p.m. Have an amazing experience today at Ishtar Restaurant, 3625 15 Mile Road, Sterling Heights.
Clap your hands if you're happy and you know it and you really want.
5-year-old Lila and her mom are on their way home from Grandma's, singing Lila's favorite song. A few blocks away, 25-year-old Dylan is visiting friends at a small party. He finishes off his last beer,
Later, skater.
gets in his truck, and starts for home. Mom and Lila turn onto Maple Street.
If you're happy and you
So does Dylan.
If you're happy and you know it and you really want to show it. If you're happy and you know it, shout hooray, hooray!
Every 50 minutes in the United States, someone dies in a crash involving a driver impaired by alcohol or drugs. If you're impaired and you know it, don't drive. Drive sober. A message from the Michigan Office of Highway Safety Planning.
Welcome back, and thank you for being with us. We're talking to Emily Din from the state. We're talking about the things we don't like, and that is mosquitoes and ticks. So that's for mosquitoes. As far as ticks, I mean, are they in residential areas, or only if I go to the woods, I'm more prone to get ticks on?
So that is a very gray area. So let's say you are a very fortunate person who has a beautiful home right up against the woods.
Okay.
What do you call that? And so that's what I've
Yeah.
been changing about my messaging over the years.
Yeah.
Yes, you do find them in all sorts of recreational places, but you also find them in everyday environments like our schools, our churches, our homes, our vacation homes, whatever. And so that what I'm trying to say there is that humans and ticks have a lot of opportunity in many different ways to come into contact with each other.
And again, same question in regard to ticks. Are there any different colors I should wear so I can spot them? I don't think the color is gonna repel them, but so I can spot them easily.
Right.
Wear boots, things like that. Wear a hat.
Yeah, so light colored clothing can be very helpful. So what ticks do is they are waiting on brush or in the leaf litter for something to come by, and then they hold their arms up and reach for something when something comes by. So let's say you come by and that tick is in the brush or on the leaf litter waiting. That's how it can grab onto you. And so light colored clothing can be very helpful for spotting them. And what I like to do is I keep a lint roller in my car, because sometimes it takes a lot of work to pick ticks on your clothes by hand, and having a lint roller can help a lot by sticking whatever ticks are on the lint roller. And then when I get home, I put my clothes in the dryer for 10 minutes on high heat to kill whatever ticks may be on my clothes.
Okay. And they can vary in size. I mean, some of them we may not see.
Yes. Oh, I do not have my business card, but I can support that. But there are ticks that are as small as a poppy seed.
Oh,
And those are the ticks that I was talking about earlier, the younger tick that is harder for people to see. And what I tell people is that the longer a tick is on you, if it is infected with something, the more likely it can transmit that something to you. So unlike a mosquito, a tick, if it has something, can take quite a while to transmit, let's say, Lyme disease to that person. And so it's the ticks that you overlook or don't pick off of you that can make you sicker compared to the bigger ticks that are easier to see.
Sure. And are they easy to remove from the body?
So I've had all sorts of different experiences. So it depends on how long the tick has been there. So when a tick is initially attached to me and it just started, it's relatively easy to remove. It's like plucking a hair. Other times I've had experiences when the tick has been on me for quite some time, and it can take a little bit more effort to pull out, but eventually, so long as I keep pulling straight out like it's a hair, it will come out. And sometimes I have had experiences where the cement plug is apparent when I pull the tick out. People ask me, what is that? It looks like a piece of my skin came out. And I tell them, no, that's a cement plug for the tick to help stay in this.
Yeah. And again, it takes longer for any disease to develop there, as you said. How many hours?
With Lyme disease, yes. With other diseases, at least in laboratory studies, some diseases can be transmitted in 15 minutes.
Are there any specific spots in the body that ticks are kind of like?
Yes. So since ticks want to avoid being found when they are feeding, they like to go to the places that are very well hidden. So you can think about things like behind your knees and armpits and belly buttons, around your pant line, behind ears. I've had ticks in the underwear zone. They're very comfortable in those hidden spots. But I've also had ticks just on my arm or on my back.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. If they don't like, if they come home with us and they don't get any food, how long do they live?
Not very long in the typical home environment.
Okay. Okay. And again, after we take him out, just like alcohol or something, just to clean it, or is there anything else we can do?
No, just basic first aid. So what I do is I have, let's say there's a tick on me, I pull it off and put it on a tissue paper, and then I just alcohol wipe that area to sanitize it. That's it.
Should I save it so I know, I have reference to what bit me if something developed?
Sure, that's a great idea. And so the other thing that I can talk about too is our Citizen Submitted Tick program. And this is our public citizen science program where anybody in the state or visitors can send photo of a tick to that inbox, and we can identify and tell you all sorts of things about that. Because not only are there deer ticks, there are other tick species in Michigan that can transmit other diseases, but they're far rare.
Yeah. Yeah. Is there anything I haven't asked you that people need to know, whether it is mosquitoes or ticks?
Let's see. I think the other recommendation with ticks, at least at minimum, to protect yourself. So a lot of the protections on mosquitoes also work well for ticks. But also I realize things like, okay, if you're at the beach and you throw a ball into the woods, you could find ticks there, but you're not always wearing the same amount of clothing. So what I recommend is during Michigan's beautiful summer, where there's all sorts of beautiful habitats where we live with ticks, check for ticks on a daily basis at least.
Yes. And what is the interval of time in the summer? When is it that I can go out and don't have to worry about ticks?
That's a great question because it also depends on the weather.
Yeah.
This year I had people telling me that they were finding ticks on their animals and on themselves back in February.
Wow.
And right.
Yeah.
The fact is ticks can be active when temperatures are above freezing or around that point. There's not many of them, but they can be active.
Okay.
So it depends on this year.
Sounds good. Emily, I really appreciate you taking the time to be with us. I thank you so much. And Emily, then from the state, and we're going to have on our website a little bit of information to correspond to what we've done today. So if you like to check it out as well. Emily, thank you so much.
You're welcome.
Appreciate it.
Thank you.